Hello once again, welcome to Monaco and the PokerStars and Monte Carlo Casino EPT. Day 5 of the main event continues with just 10 players remaining in the hunt for the trophy and the first prize of €712,000. These are the payouts. Everyone guaranteed at least 44K with 6-figure scores for the top 6 and of course the big money up top for the eventual winner. Well, these are the 5 players we're watching at the feature table right now. Schemion has more than 100 big blinds. We also have Thomas Jozonis, Javier Fernandez, and Sadri Salah, and Patrick Antonius looking to win his second EPT title. He's got a stack of 40 big blinds. And right now the blinds are 20,000, 40,000 with a 40,000 big blind ante. This is hand 82. I'm James Hartigan, and with me in the booth is Maria Ho. Schemion raises with a legitimate hand, pocket 8s. Patrick Antonius has 7-3 of hearts in the big blind.
I actually like this 3-bet. I think if he had, just slightly better suited cards, I think those are calls, but 7-3 suited is kind of the hand that if you want to play, I think a 3-bet is actually a better option than calling from the big blind. I mean, unfortunately, Schemion does have a hand that he's not going to go anywhere with.
Yeah, Schemion has called the re-raise. 860,000 in the middle. But that is a horrible board for 8s.
And that's kind of the beauty of 3-betting a hand like 7-3 suited is it gives you board coverage on these type of flops. You can rep them easily. Whereas if you just call pre, you're just going to check fold.
275.
Here he does what Patrick Antonius does bet. 275,000 with 7 high. Now Schemion is no slouch. We've seen him make some strong reads. We've seen him make some big calls, but
yeah, it's just about whether or not he thinks Antonius is getting out of line with his 3-bets, but if Antonius has any value in his 3-bets from that position, then that's all Antonius on that flop.
well, we've got an all-in and a call on the other table. Josip Simonic is all-in and at risk with ace-jack, and it's our qualifier, Christian Georgi, who's called him with jacks. So just one overcard for Simonic, the player at risk. Qualifier hype. Christian hoping that jacks hold. He's not at risk here, but if jacks hold, we are down to 9, and he has made the unofficial final table of 9. The flop is king 9-3. Huge sweat for the guy who's in this event for just €5. Simonic is dead to an ace. He needs Barry Greenstein. He needs to see one of the 3 aces on the river, or he is out in 10th place, and we're down to 1 table.
I wonder how big the celebration is going to be if his hand holds.
Barry does not deliver. We are down to 9. Our qualifier has made it. Josip Simonic is out in 10th place. And that's a beautiful moment. Simonic wishes the qualifier the best of success. Now that he's in the final 9, And we are going to have the final redraw of the Monte Carlo main event. The remaining 9 players, including Jiang, will take their seats on the main stage. Šimunić cashing out for 44,100 euros. So all the remaining players now sat at one table. Jozonis in the lead with 108 bigs. Schemion sits in second. No one short. David Peters hovering around the 30 big blind mark. Honglin Jiang, the official shortest stack, with 27 big blinds. As we play on, hand number 92. Ola Schemion, second in chips, 94 big blind stack. Opens with Queen Jack from under the gun +3. Makes it 90k. Pocket fives for Sadri Saleh. That's a call. The crinkling is getting really tilting.
Oh, my bad.
I was going to say, did you pass your bag of potato chips along to somebody at the feature?
I gave one to everyone.
Jozonis has Jack-8 in the big blind.
It's a combination of the crinkling and the shuffling, actually, that bothers me. It's approaching nails on a chalkboard status.
Jozonis calls as well, 3-way to the flop. And that flop is 10-9-7. Jozonis flops it. And Schemion has a gut shot to a better straight. What do you do here, Maria? Play and flow?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why it looks like Jozonis is going to lead into the pre-flop raiser is because he feels like this is the kind of board that's going to get checked around a lot, and leading can actually look a little bit weaker than obviously what he has. It looks more like, you know, protecting top pairs or a pair and a straight draw. Doesn't really look like you flopped a joint.
150k from Jozonis, called by Schemion. Salah gets out of the way, and it's heads up to the turn.
Let's see how good Schemion is running today.
He's got the swag factor. It brings a 5 on the turn, which would have been a set for Salah. He saved himself by not getting involved post-flop.
Unfortunately, he doesn't know that just yet. He's probably a little tilted at the moment. I was actually a little disappointed that Honglin folded 8-6, which would be in really big trouble right now, too. Although he would have a straight flush draw.
Jozonis fires again, 375,000 into 630,000.
And this is the part where, you know, Schemion's also thinking maybe my overcards could be good based on the way the hand was played. I don't think he would often call with just a straight draw if that's all he thought his outs were.
But it's the 8 that comes on the river.
There's our answer to how good Schemion's running today.
Schemion swag factor, 8 out of 10.
What in the world?
Well, this is going to result in a change at the top of the leaderboard.
This is just so unlucky.
Twitch chat's kicking off. As Jozonis bets 725,000. And Schemion's sitting there with the nuts, right?
Yes, and he has, you know, 3.18 million in chips total, and he's just thinking about a sizing that is going to get paid off. I don't think all in is that sizing, and Jozonis' hand looks pretty strong here. To think that Jozonis is betting 3 streets after this kind of run out, Schemion has to believe he has a straight.
So why is all in not the
Because
move?
he blocks the nut straight is the problem. I mean, yes, Jozonis could have the same hand in this spot, but a lot of times he could have a hand like Jack 10.
Well, how much is that?
2 million?
2.5 million.
If you threw up earlier, Joe, I don't know why you're not throwing up now.
I got nothing left in my guts, that's why.
And of course, every decision has that 30-second timer running.
How are you supposed to get away from this when there's one hand that beats you?
I didn't say it was something he's going to get away from, but it's a very tough spot for Schemion to bluff, given what I said about how strong Jozonis' hand looks with the action having been what it was. But
I mean, can Schemion do this with just a jack?
Just to be clear, he doesn't have to play those time bank cards. They will be deducted from him at the end of the hand. Every 30 seconds that passes, the dealer resets the clock and starts it again. He will be warned when he's on his last time bank card, though, because if the clock hits 0, his hand will be dead.
whew, looked like he was going to. Oh!
It's a fold.
Wow.
Well, Schemion
Wow.
takes the chip lead. Fold to Jiang in the hijack, 10-9 of diamonds. He raises to 110,000. Jozonis on the button with 5-4 off.
Given how we just saw him play the ace-king, didn't want any more action. Can't imagine he'd want to get overly involved with a 5-4 offsuit on the button.
350.
But it sounded like he just announced raise. It looks like he is going to 3-bet the 5-4 offsuit. And this actually has interesting implications because you just saw him open shove a hand, so now he's going for a smaller 3-bet. It kind of maybe turns that ace-king a little face up as a strong hand that doesn't really want to play flops. Especially if he is going to have some stuff that goes for a smaller sizing. David Peters lurking in the small blind though. Short stack and ace-king.
One.
Is this one of those horrible spots where
Yeah.
Jozonis just now has to call it off?
He's going to have like a really ridiculous odds. Almost 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, 5-4 offsuit is really, really bad equity against a jamming range here. So if you are ever going to be able to fold, you're going to have to fold here. But getting 3-1, I mean...
Is this one of those situations where he probably should have been more aware of the fact that he had a short stack in the small blind when he made this move?
But also, I mean, I don't think David Peters can really do this as a move.
No, that's the thing. Like, David Peters has to have it to be able to be all in here.
Yeah.
And also, with Jozonis 3-betting and David Peters is on such a short stack in the small blind, maybe the other players don't feel like he's ever bluffing because, oh, he's never going to be light because he's forced to call D Peters all in, right? It's just a very weird situation for him to actually take the 5-4 off and decide to 3-bet.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's better off not doing it in general. But David Peters, by the way, now up to 28 big blinds.
Well, it's an opening raise from David Peters with Queen Jack, and Antonius has him dominated with Ace Queen.
And we did just see a fold from the Ace Jack as well from Georgi, I believe. Potentially, you know, a little bit on the tight side, but staying out of trouble, staying out of hassle. And it's going to work wonders for him here because Ace Queen of clubs for Patrick Antonius. And it will be a raise to 350,000.
Yeah, 350.
Jiang is in the small blind with Ace-7.
Nah. Nah, ain't about that Ace-7 life.
Fernandez has folded the big blind, so it's back on Peters.
Cool, let's see what a good player does here. I'm a big fan of the call miss fold.
Well, here's a question. How long ago was it that Antonius was 3-betting 7-3 and 10-4? Any chance that Peters has seen any of those hands?
I think we may just, he may not have quite seen it on the stream. I'm not sure if he has access to the stream, but if he has seen it, he's certainly going to not be going anywhere. I think against a player like Patrick Antonius, you're probably not going to go anywhere anyway. Queen Jack of Diamonds quite playable, quite robust. And even if he has seen that, the problem with shoving is David Peters will fancy his chances at this final table, so he doesn't want to like risk a very high variance all in.
And he fancies his chances of flopping a flush draw. It's almost a flip now. Antonius ahead for now with ace high.
See, this is where David Peters is. He doesn't call miss fold. He catches something, and then my plan is just already. It's a whole new decision tree.
Patrick Antonius does slide out a continuation bet. He's going to have a lot of strong hands here because not only is Patrick Antonius a player who's going to have all those overpairs in his range, the 10s, jacks, queens, kings, and aces, we saw him 3-bet the 10-4. So it's actually possible he 3-bets something like 4-5, 6-7 suited as well. So he's got good board coverage on the low boards. He's got the overpairs. It's very, very difficult to play against.
What do you think about the claim by one time? It says Peters had Botox shots in his face. It gives away no info.
Well, they need a poker face here. He's all in for 1.4 million.
Shoving on Patrick Antonius. It's all in to call.
And we just spoke about all the other really good hands that Patrick Antonius has here that would be able to make this call. So he may feel like he doesn't need to call with ace-queen offsuit, especially even if he knows D. Peters has got a lot of flush draws here. His equity is really bad against them.
Just wondering what hands Peters is stopping going with here that aren't flush draws. I don't think that many.
That's the thing. You'd think a lot of his pairs are going to go all in pre-flop. Vulnerable things like 9s and 10s. Given how aggressive Patrick is, they might just make the 4-bet all in. So it's kind of hard to represent pocket 6s or 7s that called and then jam the flop. Maybe that's about it. But as I say, even if it is just flush draws,
sometimes you just
you're just going to get a fold anyway.
Still 9-handed at this unofficial final table in the EPT Monte Carlo main event. Schemion leads. Antonius is the short stack. Antonius, the last remaining former champ, the last potential 2-time winner.
And I will agree that it wasn't exactly a stop and go. Sorry.
I know what you meant. We all knew what you meant.
I have room to blow a lot away without busting
Like the big bad wolf.
with dead hands.
Schemion has opened with 8s. Salah has 5s.
But I can have a hand sometimes too. It happens.
But you didn't.
100K called by Salah. Actually, that hand changes Patrick Antonius' tournament quite significantly here. He's down under the 20 big blind mark now. Shortest stack at the table.
Round to the blinds. Fernandez in the small with king-queen.
A hand out of position that a lot of players would want to 3-bet or fold.
Yeah, and he is 3-betting.
450,000. Jozonis gives up the big. Action back on Schemion.
Schemion crucially in position here. Is the chip leader at the table. We just spoke about Patrick being the shallowest. Ollie Schemion is the deepest with over 100 big blinds. I would be shocked, I say, to see a fold from the pocket eights.
Call.
And he does make the call.
Now Salah is getting 3-1.
He is. It's a large chunk of his stack, though. Please no 5. Please no 5. Please no 5.
Yeah, you don't.
Please
You
no
just walk
5.
away. That's
He doesn't
exactly
even
what
wanna
you do.
look at it.
Just walk away for a minute. We don't want to see this board.
Well, there's no 5, but Ollie Schemion flops a set. Not only does he flop a set, Fernandez catches top pair. He won't know it yet, but this is a really rough spot for him. I think with the board being as connected as it is as well, he'll want to bet his hand to protect against so many bad turns. An ace, a heart, even a 10, a 9. It's not particularly exciting for his queen.
Oh, man.
And we just saw David Peters shove all in with a flush draw here. I think if Ollie Schemion, given how shallow they are, if he gets here with like an ace-10 of hearts or an ace-X of hearts or maybe even a queen-10, we might see him play back. So there's every chance we see a raise from the pocket eights as well.
Just a call. This could be the worst thing that happened to Javier Fernandez since the hair tie.
Seven of the hearts might save him somewhat. He doesn't have a heart in his hand, so his holding certainly got a little less attractive on the turn. 9-10 improves as well. This is a really tricky hand to play against someone as good as Ollie Schemion, and being out of position as well.
Also, there's nearly 1.8 million in the middle, and he's got less than 1.7 million behind. He checks to Schemion.
So whilst your hand is good, it did get a lot worse on the turn as we just spoke about, but someone as good as Ollie Schemion, if he gets here with 10-8 suited, calls pre and maybe pills the flop, he's going to turn it into a bluff here some of the time. Even a hand like a Jack 10 of spades, he may bet as well. So it's really difficult to navigate with the king-queen because you're not happy on the turn, but you know that your opponent is going to have some hands turning themselves into a bluff or still bluffing.
So Schemion shoves on Fernandez, all into call. Top pair, a decent kicker. There are potential flushes and straights out there. Doesn't know he's up against a set.
It's just you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Like,
well, should he call here, he will be out. He is drawing dead.
guaranteed his hair is not the only thing in a knot. Just sick.
just wonder whether his hands are tied as well, whether he has to make this call. It might be the best hand of the checks on the turn. And if you're folding your best hand, you're very exploitable. And if anyone's going to exploit you, it's going to be Ollie Schemion.
Right, that's what I mean by you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't here. Like,
Tough spot for Fernandez.
I mean, I guess you're guaranteed to survive if you fold.
He lets it go. As Ollie Schemion increases his chip lead. He's up to 6.4 million now. Well, in January 2019, we're going to be back in the Bahamas for the PCA, and that festival is going to kick off with something very special indeed. The first ever PokerStars Players No Limit Hold'em Championship. Going to be a huge 25K event, like to be the biggest one ever held. Now, there's $1 million added to first place, plus there's an extra $8 million in the prize pool, which is going to come from these platinum passes. These are packages giving qualifiers free entry to the event, plus expenses and accommodation. More than 300 of them being given away in live events and online over the course of the year. Details on how you can get your hands on a platinum pass can be found at PokerStarsLive.com. Qualify getting involved. He's got sixes.
Let's see where he goes this time. Whatever he's raising, he's getting them in there.
And he's happy to do it.
110. The price of poker's going down.
Good boy.
What a great spot for Antonius. Picks up kings.
Oh, he's pretty excited for him, too.
All in.
And he shoves. Round to the button, Nicolas Dumont. Now Jiang in the small blind. No. Fernandez in the big blind. Nope. Back on our qualifier, who wants a count.
Really interested to see how he deals with this. Because Antonius, although he is short, he's jamming over a raise. He's jamming with several people still to act behind him. So he is still going to be pretty strong, especially for his tournament life at the final table, a final table where he'd expect himself to have an edge. But Georgi does have a decent amount of chips. 660,000 more for him to call. And of course, when you are more inexperienced and you think you've a chance to eliminate a player like Patrick Antonius, and you could certainly still be flipping, it might just be a spot that he's going to take.
Cool.
And he does.
He calls with the underpair. Patrick has him dominated and is in a great spot to double up through the qualifier.
I don't know if that was the best use of the time bank card. It looks like he just used it to count out the call.
I think he was working out what percentage of his stack it was.
Somebody. This guy is rooting for me.
Patrick, you've got plenty of fans.
Because you guys want me to bust and get more money.
That's true. The
Maybe
people at the
you
table
want
are
to
not
stay
his fan right
because
now.
you take chips from me. Oh, thank you. Very honest.
They're just handing out ear defenders in case he hits a 6.
It's
Patrick.
also nice for him to have chips. A big result.
4-1 favorite to double up.
Big result for you. Anyways, I guess.
Let's put them out their misery.
Thanks.
Let's deal out this board. Ace, ace, queen, king's holding.
Take that. No. No.
The turn card is a 3. So the last remaining former EPT champ, Patrick Antonius, just has to fade a 6 on the river to survive. He doubles up.
Oui.
Home and dry. Safe for now. Patrick Antonius right back in it.
Everyone.
Still the shortest stack, but 33 big blinds is nowhere near the danger zone.
And Christian Georgi is still number 2 in chips at this table. 54 big blinds. There is the winner's trophy. Tomorrow we will crown another champion here on the European Poker Tour. There's 9 players remain from a total of 777 entries in the PokerStars and Monte Carlo Casino EPT. Action here is on Sadri Salah from Canada. He folds. Nicolas Dumont. 6-5 off. He mucks that.
Poor guy's been card dead.
Jiang gives up the 8-3. Fernandez has passed, so it's on Antonius Jozonis. He's got ace-king. And that's a raise from the cutoff to 125,000. And our qualifier's getting involved, Joe.
Yep, those are 100K. Oh, what is happening here?
Raise.
He does know that the 7-deuce game is off, right?
Whatever happens here, I love this guy.
A bold 3-bet from Christian. Makes it 360,000. And with Patrick Antonius folding the big blind, it's back on Jozonis.
Georgi heading toward the danger zone. What better move for a self-described mentalist?
So Jozonis decides to just flat here, Maria. No 4th bet. He's going to play a flop in position. Uh-oh. Georgi's gone full Palpatine.
This is going to be a real tough hand to get Jozonis to fold, and I assume the plan wasn't to make a strong hand with 7-deuce. He's like, what have I done? Oh man, still 7-deuce.
Straight draw, flush draw. And yet with just 12% equity, the qualifier's going to barrel. 500K into 840K.
He is really going for it.
You know, and as I said, because of this ICM dynamic, hands are going to be very much under-repped. You saw Peters calling with ace-king from the small blind. You see Jozonis just calling with ace-king. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Georgi fire off because, you know, I don't think he's as aware of these dynamics as some of the other players at the table. And he doesn't realize that, you know, sometimes you can safely put players on certain hands and exclude them from having certain hands. But there's no such thing as capped ranges necessarily when people are just trying to play small ball and get to flops.
Complete blank on the turn, the 4 of clubs. Jozonis still with the monster draw and the best hand, ace high.
I mean, there's one hand you can exclude them from having, and that's your hand. So the ace of diamonds in Jozonis' hand just makes bluffing this a near impossibility for Georgi.
I mean, he's trying to tell a convincing story. Oh my word!
Oh my goodness.
He 3-bet pre, he continued the flop, and now he shoves the turn for 1.5 million with 7-deuce.
No.
And Jozonis has got 90% equity here near enough. He's got the best hand with ace high. He's got a straight draw and a flush draw.
Guys, people use ICM suicide a lot, but like this might be the epitome.
Oh my God, he's folded!
Georgi has got your guts and shows it.
Otvam. 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 Otvam.
Give it to him.
This is good for TV.
Thank you very much.
Truer words never spoken.
My goodness, what a boss.
Hand of the tournament, I'm calling it now.
Christian.
Wow.
Christian.
Me cago en mi cabeza.
You know what? Georgi is a Georg god.
Wow. Me cago en-
Schemion is loving every second of this.
Yeah, you have to.
And I guess this
This is respect. I mean, you have to have some boss.
Thank you.
And this is the flip side,
Christian.
right? When you
This is
are
more than balls.
unfamiliar
This is
with
more
the
than
situation,
balls.
Much
you don't
more.
This is a
realize
little
that
bit crazy too.
people don't do that. Like, that was not the spot, but like it's gonna work because people don't do that.
Right.
I can't.
It was
I-
just
I-
so convincing.
I mean,
It was such a bad time for a bluff that it couldn't ever be a bluff, but it was.
I don't think I will
It gives a whole new paint job to Christian the mentalist, but I tell you what, he is now second in chips with 56 bigs.
like, that was absurd.
Hero.
Superman, Batman.
Sleeper.
Yeah, yeah.
That's big hero, that's bluff.
You want to call it
But good-
ICM
good
suicide. He
get
jumped off a building and landed in a truck full of pillows. Stuck the landing.
Well, this hand,
Have the respect of all the table, mate.
Jetzt big respect.
Yeah, yeah, respect of all the table.
has been folded around to David Peters.
I thought you were crazy.
Yeah, yeah, but
Fancy Moses.
compared with him, I am
I
fucking
mean,
pussy. You
listen,
know?
if you're Georgian, this might be the last chance
Wow.
that you ever have to make, you know, the last table of an EPT. You might as well
let's
have
get
your
back to
legacy set in stone with a hand like that.
Come on, one time.
What do you want me to do?
Pass. You have to pass this.
I like to play.
I know.
Oh, we know.
Queen. Chop my hand. Huh? I could chop my hand. Pre-flop and the flop.
Antonius just calls in the small with
Yeah.
fives,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
so I
Schemion
know-
checks his
I know.
option.
You're really staring me, man. I don't like when you stare.
Uh-oh.
I like though.
Still
So
poker
beautiful.
being played, by the way.
What are you calling it? What are you calling it?
Oh, man.
Patrick, with his set of fives, bets 100,000. Schemion has paired his three, but has
I
less
did
than
not expect you to
1%
fold.
equity. Calls the bet. And oh!
Ooh.
Trips for Schemion. Full house for Antonius.
Oh, boy.
The sickness continues.
We are a frenzied bunch back here.
The poker gods must have a dinner reservation tonight.
Antonius fires again. 250,000.
$665.
Schemion raises.
Oh, boy.
I would expect Antonius to just call here because, yes, a bit of the time Schemion is going to have a three. Can't exclude him having some combo draws as well. And if you just shove over this raise, then you're not going to get those hands to call. But on the flip side, you also realize that there might be some rivers that are going to kill your action.
1.3.
So instead of moving all in, you just re-raise his raise.
Three bet from Patrick Antonius to 1.3 million.
I mean, Patrick, he's old school. He's going to click it back. Just like in the FTP nosebleeds.
Looks insanely strong to me. And remember, Antonius limped into the small blind, so Antonius can have 7-4 here, whereas, you know, you can exclude that hand if he limped and Schemion raised, and you just wouldn't expect Antonius to show up with, you know, unsuited 7-4s or, you know, 4 deuce O. But those are all in his range.
Schemion calls the raise. This hand going to the river.
Could it be a queen?
We have got a pot of close to 3 million.
Maria, you're sick. You're sick, and I like it.
The river is a 7. It's always coming
It
7.
is always coming 7.
Patrick's got $1 million behind.
And even though Schemion's going to be getting a really good price to call on the river, that's one of the cards that's just terrible for his hand.
Schemion has pretty good instincts. We've seen him make some big calls. We've seen him make some big folds. But yeah, there's 4 million. It's $1 million to call. And he's got trips.
No, Diana, talk.
And he is losing to straights also. Something he has to consider.
1.70.
Much?
1.7.
He looks a little dazed. Wouldn't this be the most baller mover ever if Patrick then slams down 7 deuce also and then high fives Georgi?
Yeah, this is very tough. It's not a great run out for trips. And you just can't think of many hands that Antonius has that he would play this way that doesn't have you beat by this point. And like I said, you literally can't exclude any hands from Antonius's range because he limped in from the small blind.
I mean, there are hands you can eliminate from his range, but they're hands that
beat.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That you beat.
I call.
Oh boy.
Schemion calls. Patrick Antonius gets the full double up with the full house. New chip leader at the table, ladies and gentlemen.
New old chip leader. Old school Antonius.
EPT Baden 2005 champ Patrick Antonius now leads the EPT Monte Carlo main event with an 85 big blind stack, 5.1 million. Ola Schemion drops down below 40 bigs. It's come around to Antonius in the cutoff.
Can't even help but smile because he knows everybody knows. If it's folded to him, he's going to open.
He is absolutely loving it. He raises with ace-4. 120,000. Schemion calls with jacks. Here's our short stack with deuces. And he moves all in. Well, we know he's going to get called in one spot.
It's very likely to be deuces for him as he walks out the door.
Wow.
And now Dumont wakes up with queens in the big blind.
What is happening?
And he reshoves. And this is an interesting spot for Schemion.
Yeah, this is a...
Easy fold for Antonius, but for Schemion,
I give up.
he was obviously going to call the deuces. He also calls the raise from the queens.
What a
and
spot for Dumont.
we have a 3-way all-in.
really rough because obviously Schemion's hand is under rep.
I had the ace.
And
This guy, this dealer, is going in the Dealer Hall of Fame. That's all I'm saying.
This orbit has been absolutely insane. So Schemion obviously has both players covered. If he spikes a jack, we get a double KO, and we're down to 7. If queens hold here, Salah goes out and Schemion is crippled.
If deuces never loses, Salah's right back in this. This is exciting either way you slice it. Don't put a chop on board, please.
Maybe it's my time.
Actually, that'd be pretty cool too. I take it back.
Schemion said maybe it's his time, but it's kind of been his time for the last 8 hours, so.
Maybe clubs. Clubs. Oh yeah. Or clubs. I had the ace of club.
Let's run out this board. Queen high flop.
What a sweat.
Justice.
10 to the split.
Backdoor straight draw for Schemion.
2.4.
Running deuce draw for Salah.
2.4, I think. 2.3. Oh. You want? 2.1, 2.2.
Schemion's going to be left with about 1.5 million. And that's it. Both players drawing dead on the turn, so Dumont gets better than a double up, and Salah is eliminated. We now have our official final table of 8, as Sadri Salah departs in 9th place, cashing for 54,000 euros.
Sadri Salah, more like Sadri Salah.
Sick hands, huh?
Can afford, right?
Can we sustain
I don't think we can.
this level of play for another orbit? These hands, people, these hands! Ace 10 here for Dumont. Still has the chip lead, starts the hand with 5 million. He's raised. He's made it 125,000. Jiang is the low man at the table. 18 bigs, king, queen suited.
Queen
I'm all in.
suited, all in.
Shoves for 1.1 million. Round to our qualifier in the small blind. He passes. Patrick Antonius in the big blind. Looks interested. He's got queens.
He is quite interested.
Interesting spot for Antonius, because obviously Dumont and Antonius have pretty much the same chip stack,
Cool. Cool.
and which is why Antonius is just going to call, hoping Dumont's going to fold, because if you call and Dumont shoves, that would be
Really not good for me.
Well,
tough
Dumont
position.
has passed, and it's Patrick Antonius who has Jiang at risk.
True, it could be worse.
Could be worse. 3 overcards still. 3 kings in the deck.
Honglin Jiang at risk and behind, looking for a king.
Well, now I'm for sure rooting for you.
Are you serious?
Deep sigh from Jiang. And it's a king high flop.
And a couple of
This
clubs.
is not a good flop.
You don't say, Patrick. Do you know what? A one-outer would just complete the narrative
Straight before.
of this last half hour of poker.
Boom. Queen,
So-
and it's gonna take it.
Jiang just has to fade the queen of diamonds on the river to survive.
Queen and a queen only.
No queen of diamonds. Jiang doubles up. We play on 8-handed. And what has that done to the stacks? Well, that sees Antonius drop down to 3.7 million. Still second in chips.
It's so ridiculous that Nicolas Dumont is the chip leader. That's I just spit everywhere. It's so silly. Everyone just clawing and fighting and table and 7 deuce and Patrick and Ola, and this guy's just like, oh, I have queens and a 3-way all, and I'm chip leader now. Thanks, guys. Patrick.
Kings under the gun. Antonius currently second in chips, a 60 big blind stack. He raises to 135,000.
Thank goodness he didn't listen to my advice. Dumont. He'd be in big trouble right now.
All around to Fernandez, who's third in chips.
He's getting in there. Up, buddy.
He has a similar size stack to Antonius. He's just flattered with the jacks in position. David Peters has 10-9 in the small blind. Lets it go. Christian Georgi has 10-4.
Nah.
Lets it go. So Antonius Fernandez heads up to the flop. Kings versus jacks. It's a jack high flop.
Oh my goodness.
Antonius continues.
And he is about to take it on his incredibly well-defined chin.
Just a call from Fernandez. Queen on the turn.
That might slow things down a bit.
Patrick checks.
Fernandez has all the likely queen-jack combos, and also, you know, because we've seen people massively under-repping their hands because they don't want to 3-bet, I know Antonius doesn't expect his opponents to 3-bet queens or jacks pre. So whereas in other spots you could more easily define your opponent's hands, they can have, you know, the top of their range, they can have the best of this board.
Maybe a slight live tell there with a little hesitation for those chips going in for Fernandez. I don't know. Patrick.
675,000 here.
Patrick might not even be looking for live tells. He just might be thinking, I have kings. How am I going to play this?
This will be the last hand of the level. We're ticking into the break. I hope it's not Patrick's last hand of the main event. Well, as previously referenced, he has got Fernandez covered just. And the queen on the river, so the full house for Fernandez.
And the clubs would have gotten there. Maybe that stops Patrick from paying off a huge river value bet. Clubs.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the best cards Patrick could have seen on the river to avoid losing more chips.
Well, Fernandez decides to bomb it, overbets the river, shoves for 2.4 million, and if anyone can get away from this, it's Patrick Antonius.
Yeah, I think he can do it.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that his shot clock is paused while the dealer verifies the bet. Yeah, Chip Avalanche says, this dude is never bluffing. Never.
2 point.
How much?
Sorry, 2 point. 2.4. 2.4. 95.
Luckily for Patrick, there's no value bets that he's beating that he can talk himself into calling either.
How much? 2.4, 95, huh?
Now, if Patrick does get away from this, he'll leave himself with 2.6 million. Around 40 bigs.
I think all this is, obviously Patrick is collecting information, but I think he knows he has to fold. It's just a little bit harder to get rid of these kings, so you have to give yourself every reason.
It feels worse than it looks.
Yeah.
I think, you know, even in a spot where there aren't all these ICM considerations with all the shorter stacks, I think Antonius would make this fold.
He lays down the kings.
You got it?
Oh yeah, he's got it. So Javier Fernandez wins the last hand of the level. He chips up to 4.6 million.
So Fernandez with the jack and the jack. The jacks are back. Raising to 180,000, called by Dumont, who will think that he's flopped quite nicely. Top pair, top kicker. Ace-8 on the 5-6-8 board. But Fernandez, of course, still well out in front.
I think this is a board that Fernandez probably wants to do quite a lot of checking on versus the big blind. So when he is going to bet, probably wants to size up a little bit. People in the chat are not happy at you.
So they should be. It is football. So just the call for Dumont. There are going to be some action-killing turns. The 3 of spades, you can't imagine, is one of them. Dumont will have been looking to fade pretty much half the deck. Wouldn't have enjoyed life on a 4, 7, 9.
In saying that, Fernandez gets to this turn. The big blind has called him. He has Schemion with the 14 big blind stack. What can he have as a bluff? Like, what's he going to be able to continue with here a lot of the time? Maybe a hand like 9-10 suited. Maybe if he opened an Ace-7 suited. But I think more often than not, we're going to see this turn checked a whole lot. So I'm not saying that he'll have an easy fold with the Ace-8, but it might be a spot where he can make a bit of a hero fold from time to time.
We do see an all-in from Fernandez. He seemingly doesn't want to risk any bad rivers on what is quite a connected board. All in with the 2 jacks and a real decision for Dumont. But as Finton said, you can't imagine this is a spot where Fernandez is going to be bluffing very often.
I will say that I like that he's gone all in, though, because if he had a hand like Ace King of Spades, King Queen of Spades, the sizing he's going to use is probably all in, and his hand can still do with a lot of protection.
Yeah, and like 9-10 of spades, Ace-7 of spades, reasonable jams.
Still not a whole lot of hands, though.
Yeah, that's really only a few combinations.
I predict we see the fold.
And another solid laydown. Now Nicolas Dumont able to get away from the top pair, top kicker. And these are the sort of folds that you have to make at final tables, especially with ICM considerations as well.
Well, we've reached the end of that level, and that will be the end of the day. Fatigue starting to set in. We're going to come back for the final day, 8-handed. Nicolas Dumont with the chip lead. Schemion bringing up the rear. He is in the danger zone with just 11 bigs. The final day, the final table, will see us play down to a winner. Join us next time at the PokerStars and Monte Carlo Casino EPT.